Buying a home in Roatan, Honduras, and financing. I'm seeing a lot of financing signs all over the place, which has not been something we have seen until very recently. Well, I can tell you from personal experience, the banks in Honduras are changing their ways. My statements now look more like my US bank statements, where it's like fee here, fee, 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 fee. My outgoing wire transfers from the US are $40. I pay with Chase. And they used to not charge me at the bank that I use. Now it's a $5 fee every time I transfer money in Honduras. It used to be like a 50-cent or $2 fee. Now I'm getting 10, 20, 30, 40 was a fee that I saw the other day for transferring money for a large project, which kind of threw me off a little bit. But anyway, I digress. Now the bank fees are not 50 cents to $2, or they're no longer under 100 lempiras. They are getting, well, they're getting higher. So they're also, with that said, they're also offering a little bit more in regards to what you would expect a bank to offer in the United States or Canada. Also similar to Europe, but much closer to the North American US, specifically bank standards, which we could talk well, we're not going to talk about that here. We can do that at the bar after several cocktails, but I digress again. So financing. So there are options that are being advertised. Now there's a big difference between advertising a loan, pre-qualifying, which is basically a fake, there's nothing to it, and then actually closing on the loan. So, and I wanted to talk about it because it's conversations that I'm seeing because builders are advertising financing. I'm seeing financing advertised. I see the banks advertising it. Now, with that said, I've seen lots and lots of interest in it, and I know very, very few people that actually qualify for them. So if you are a Honduran citizen with ample assets, and I mean ample meaning you don't need a loan from the bank to do whatever you're going to do, you are who actually qualify and close on the loans. Now, anybody can pre-qual. It's just a piece of paper that makes you feel good. Doesn't mean it's not a pre-approval like you would get in North America. A pre-qual is like those things you fill out online. You don't talk to anybody, nobody verifies anything, versus the pre-approval when you actually have to talk to a lender, prove what you are saying is true, and then you get a pre-approval. So there is a big difference between the two. They're not handing out pre-approvals. They're doing pre-qualifications if you go to a bank. And I have not seen a single person that is not a Honduran citizen close on these loans. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean it won't ever happen. But if you do actually qualify with the bank in the final steps about to be funded, you will have the means to probably pay for the house 4 times over, and if you have that type of money, the terms that you are going to see from the bank are not worth it. So that's a lot there. But the loans that they're advertising, it's what they're being marketed and actually closing on are not one and the same. Now there's a couple exceptions to that. And so we're talking exceptions, not the general rule here, is there are exceptions. And some builders, some Honduran citizen builders, which very specific, it cannot be a foreign investor because the rules are going to be different. So a developer, and so we're talking about exceptions, not the rules of thumb, not the normal. These are exceptions where the loan could potentially work. So it is a Honduran citizen builder with ample assets is the one that actually qualifies for the loan, even though the party buying is a foreign entity, might be a long-term resident of Honduras, but if you're not a citizen, the rules are different. So you're mostly a co-signer, or the builder is a co-signer to this loan, and the loan is based off the builder's information, the Honduran citizen with the ample assets. It's all about those ample assets and being a Honduran citizen. You can technically kind of piggyback or co-sign, if you will, onto these loans. Now, it is an option. I have not seen, now it is new, so I haven't seen too much, but I do know people are talking about it. It's creating a lot of chatter on the island. Something to think about if you are going to be a co-signer. You are a co-signer, so you don't have the rights. You do not have the protections. If something happens, if the loan goes to default for whatever reason, it's going to revert back to that builder. The builder is going to be able to take the home back. And so, and I'm not trying to scare you out of it. I want to make sure everybody knows that these are exceptions to the rule, and the financing is not as easy as it might sound, and that if you are considering this, you need to know the details of it. You need to read it, the Spanish contract, not the English contract, because the English one does not matter. It's the Spanish contract from the bank, and you need to know your rights. If you have any protections, what the loan terms actually are. Is the APR, or is that just a promotional number? I can't tell you, but you need to look in the details, and you need to see it in Spanish. Whatever's printed in English, it's irrelevant. So that's something that might add to it. And then, so just be careful with those. Those are available, but if anything goes wrong, the protections all go to the builder, or they go to the bank. They do not go to you as a person, which is kind of similar to loans in North America. It always protects the bank, but you're kind of the third party. It's the bank, then the builder, and then you. And you know how when stuff goes bad, it rolls downhill, and you're the end point. So just a couple things to think about. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Just make sure you know what you are doing. You know what you are signing. If you don't speak Spanish, get a translator that is not the builder or the bank, please. So just some things to think about. There's also the tried and true, but also hard to find, is the seller financing, where the seller of the property, it can be, well, anyone, just that has ownership of the property. They're offering some type of seller financing. Typically it is 50% down, and the loan is paid within 2 to 3 up to 5 years, and you're looking at the going interest rate. So there is interest on that. That seems to be, well, there's interest on the loans. You do not get free money, or if you put 50% down, the seller's not just going to absorb that 50% for 5 years for nothing. I would expect a minimum of 8%, maybe 8 to 12 would be more realistic, but a minimum of 8% with a payback of at most 5 years, but I would anticipate 2 to 3 with 50% down. You can send in an offer with less, but it's very, very unlikely that those terms are going to be accepted. And if they are, you might want to reevaluate how much you offered them, because, well, there's a lot of variables out there. And so it's the other opinion why, well, highly biased realtor in Roatan, why you need someone representing you, especially on the buy side in Roatan, Honduras, because if you're not from here, you're coming in, things do work differently here. They might look the same on the outside, they might be modeled after the same thing, right, wrong, or otherwise, but it doesn't mean that they act the same. And if you are the one that's sending money, you are the one that needs to be protected, because you need to send that money that money, you need to protect that. And that's why representation is so very, very important here. Unlike places in like the United States, the buyer agent, that's becoming a hot topic on whether you need one, who's going to pay one. You have a lot of protections in the United States on, most states are right to buy, which is basically you're buying whatever you're buying, your SOL if you don't like it. But there are some consumer protections here. Once you send money, you've got to have that your protection is that buyer's agent that you choose to work with, and not all of us are equal. So I would make sure you do talk to one that is a realtor, is in the MLS, highly biased because I am, and one that's been on the island for quite some time. I'd say there's 25 of us that are really very good. There are about 150 of us, so there are many good options. There are also options that probably aren't as good, without disparaging anyone, because that's never the intent. It's to protect you and your money at the end of the day. So if you ever have any questions, my door is always open.